Hello. So I'm going to be talking about my green building design. The main things that I want to focus on are transportation, trash disposal, water supply, electricity, parks, lighting, and materials. So transportation throughout Green City. So the goals for transportation are to eliminate the needs for cars, trains, buses, um, as the main source of travel. So, of course, um, we're not going to be able to eliminate them completely, but if we can make them less in demand, that would be beneficial for the city. So, how we would do that is by making everything close enough together so that you don't have to take a car and you're able to walk, bike, skate, however you want to travel. And that could be the main source of travel. So, the goal is keep houses near schools so that kids don't have to have their parents drive them to school. They can walk as groups to school, they can bike as groups to school. Um, have enough local businesses in the community so that people aren't having to travel far and commute an hour, 2 hours to their job. Um, and we can do this through using greenways, which connect people and places together. Um, Greenways can be paved, but our goal is to eliminate pollution, obviously. So maybe unpaved would be better. We can still upkeep it, make sure you have a dirt path, make sure there's no potholes forming. It will be easier to manage than a paved road. And walkers, joggers, bikers, even horseback riders can use the greenways. And we can have trails for the same type of thing, walking, biking, even skating through trails, just connecting the neighborhood. And having bike lanes in the streets is very beneficial for bikers so that they can use main roads. They don't always have to be using trails in case they need a main road to get somewhere they need to go. Um, and another thing we could do is prioritize parking for bikers. This could make it more appealing to bike versus driving. Um, and then I wanted to talk about trash disposal. So, not every city has mandatory recycling, but in our green city, recycling is mandatory. It's mandatory for everything in the community. So, all restaurants, places of work, your house, um, recycling has to be an option that's just given as how trash is given to us. Trash disposal, we all have trash disposal services near us. Every place in the community has to have recycling available to them. And to make our trash footprint smaller, I recommend we compost all our food scraps. So everyone composts their food scraps, residential, schools, restaurants, places of work. Um, Everyone needs to compost. And so obviously some people might not want to compost themselves. That might be unappealing to them. They don't have time. Same reason why people aren't doing it now. So there's different ways we can compost. Of course, some people might want to compost in their backyard, and that's okay. They can use it for their garden. But for people who don't want it in their backyard, there can be community compost. This unites people in the community. It can be fun. It can be fun for the kids. It can create more local jobs. It enhances food security and it improves the local soil. So it's beneficial for everyone. Again, some people might not want to take their food scraps and bring it to a compost site, and that's okay because there's also compost services. And these services will give you a bin, you fill it up, they pick it up, and they'll bring it to the compost site. So it's the exact same thing as a trash disposal service, except instead of wasting all that food, it's actually being brought back to the earth. So it should be easy enough for people to want to do that. Another thing we can do is eliminate disposable bags, plates, silverware, anything that's just plastic and unnecessary. So plates, we have glass plates, ceramic plates that we can keep on reusing. That's what we should have available. We shouldn't have available the plastic ones that break and that we just throw out. We can have reusable straws. There doesn't have to be those plastic straws. Um, so and there can be biodegradable garbage bags, and also for when you go shopping there can be fabric bags for when you buy food so that you can reuse that. We have to just eliminate all the plastic that we're using. It's unnecessary. And then, so anaerobic digestion is also a very interesting concept, and I would really like for you to click on the video and take a look, because it's a short video and I think it does a great job of explaining it. But basically, it's the conversion of organic waste into a renewable energy source. So that's another thing that we can do with our organic waste. Okay, so now I just want you to take a moment to do a little activity. So as I was saying, there's different options for composting. You can either compost at home. It's good for your garden, it's good for your soil, but if you're not into that, then maybe take a look at the compost service. If you go to compostnow.org, it will give you 2 weeks free of their service. And they'll give you a bin, you fill it up, and they pick it up. So if you go on their website, you can check if it's available near you. If not, of course, that's unfortunate. You could also try to look up if there's any community compost near you. But if you're in a heavily populated area, this compost service might reach you. It unfortunately didn't reach me, but it did reach my mom's house when I typed it in. So there's a good chance it might reach you. And they'll give you 2 weeks free, so it might be something you want to look at. Okay, so next I want to talk about water conservation. So minimizing water runoff is a must. So how we can do that is by less pavement. So pavement is obviously not permeable, so it leads to water runoff. And the water runoff is mixing with oil, it's mixing with gas, anything leaking from the car, anything that the car runs over, gets on the street, all those different pollutions are being mixed into that water source. So eliminating pavement as much as possible and leaving more natural grounds is better to minimize that water runoff. And most of you have probably heard of swales before. I don't know if you've heard of vegetative swales. The video on the side here is a little bit long, but if you just watch it for a little while, they show you what it looks like, and then they talk about obviously the benefits, what it does. I really recommend watching it. Most of you have heard of swales, I assume, but vegetative swales are shallow, broad channels that are used to convey and infiltrate the stormwater runoff. So it's a natural way of collecting the runoff. It's better for the water quality. It's a way to capture that water runoff, because harvesting rainwater is another point that I made lower down here. And if we can harvest rainwater and reuse it for irrigation, that's our best bet. Another thing that we should do is for roads that have pavement, oil and water separators are ideal to clean the water. If we're separating the water and oil, then we have more clean water that we can use. Another important thing is having a water efficient plant. We shouldn't have plants that need a lot of water in areas that are prone to droughts. Another thing we can do is drip irrigation. Also, you might have heard of it as micro irrigation. This is a way to save water and nutrients, and it just slowly drips water to the roots. So the plants are getting enough water, but you don't have to soak the entire field and waste all that water. Okay, so heating versus cooling in our green community. Okay, so the first type of heating I want to talk about is geothermal heating, which is using the Earth's natural heat. So to heat the house in the winter, water circulating inside a sealed loop system absorbs heat from the earth and it carries it into the heat exchanger. Here, the water is compressed to the higher temperature and is sent as warm air into your house, and is distributed into your house. And then also, geothermal heating can also be used to cool your home. So in the system, in the summer, the system reverses and expels heat from your home to the cooler earth through the same closed loop system. The heat exchange is not only natural processes, but is highly efficient way to create a comfortable climate in your home. So it's the same loop that is used to heat and cool your home. And it takes the heat from underground. So the sun shines down on the ground, heat is absorbed, it uses that heat from the ground. So it's a very renewable source for heating your house. And then there's also pellet stoves, which is instead of using a wood burning stove, which creates pollution, and also wood is not, we're using wood at a rate where it's becoming non-renewable. So it's a non-renewable source because we can easily deplete lands around here by the amount of wood we're using. So pellet stoves run on renewable fuels. They're low emission. You can buy local corn husks from farmers, so you don't have to. The problem with fossil fuels is we're shipping them from far away and creating all this pollution just shipping them. So you can get the fuel locally. And you can also use scraps. You can use discarded waste that you have, like sawdust, wheat pellets, stuff like that, to heat your house. Also, solar heat. There's two different types of solar heat I'm talking about. You can use solar panels, create electricity, use electric heaters in your house, or you could do passive solar heating. And passive solar heating kind of has to do with heating and cooling. So the windows, walls, and floors are used to collect and reflect and distribute the solar heat, but it can also reject heat during the summer. So for these buildings that use passive solar heat, they need to face the equator to capture the morning sun. So the south side is the best side to use passive solar heat to capture the most sun. And you want the windows to be able to face the midday sun during the winter, but have enough shade during the summer so that heat isn't coming in during the summer. And how they do this is so the first layer of the wall, it has vents in it to the inside of the house. And then next they have a black aluminum frame, and that's what really absorbs the sun's heat. And then they have a polycarbonate frame that covers it on the outside and it's see-through. So that allows the sun to come through, absorbed by the black frame. Heat rises through the vents, comes out, warms your house. The cool air goes to the bottom. There's vents on the bottom as well. Cool air goes in there, and out the top comes the hot air. And then if we go to the next slide real quick, here's a picture of it. So the winter sun, you see it can come in, and then, but there's enough of shade from the roof in the summer where the heat isn't coming in. And then cooling ideas. So for public places, trees and green spaces will provide shade. Use of pervious land for pathways and parking. And then use light colored or high albedo heat reflective surfaces for non-pervious land. Okay, so electricity. So I touched base on this a little bit when I talked about solar panels. So all the main buildings should have solar panel buildings. That's going to be the main idea for the city. But in cities where very windy, turbine farms are a great alternative to solar panels to generate electricity. Also, areas that are close to water can use hydrowave to create electricity. Hydrowave isn't ideal if you're not close to water because then the electricity still has to travel a far distance. It's more ideal to only use that for areas close to the water. So for our city's purpose, solar panels are probably going to be the main source of what is going to generate our electricity. And parks. Parks are very important to have. They're fun for the community. People can use them. It promotes walking, biking, being healthy, not being in the car. You don't want to have to drive to a park or somewhere cool to hang out. You want to just be able to walk to the park and enjoy it with your family. So if there is any parks, if there are any buildings in parks, then they need to have solar panels. And another option is green roof. So if it has solar panels, those go on the roof. They could go on the ground next to it as well. But if we did half the roof with solar panels and then the other half as a green roof, so a green roof is covered with vegetation. This can be used as an ecosystem, like organisms can live there, thrive. It's ideal for the ecosystem. And then we can reuse the rainwater for the plumbing of any of these buildings. And then again, as I talked about, don't want to walk away from pavement, so we're going to keep dirt paths through the parks. And we're going to keep natural ecosystems intact. We don't want to disturb them. We want to be able to enjoy them. And building materials. So all low VOCs materials, low or no VOCs in paints that we use, stuff like that. And we want to use locally harvested or manufactured materials that are salvaged, recycled, and efficient. So one option is recycled steel. Producing steel takes a lot of energy, creates a lot of pollution, so we want to use recycled steel. It's good for the structural use in homes, for beams, for the foundation of the home. And reclaimed steel from 6 Junks cars provides enough steel to build a 2,000 square foot house. So that's a pretty decent sized house for just 6 junk cars. So recyclable steel is a very good way to go. Another material is bamboo, and that's what this house is actually made of. This house also has a green roof, if you didn't notice. And bamboo is it's really strong, so it can be used in woods and flooring. It's not commonly used, but obviously if we used too much of it, it could become a non-renewable source. But bamboo is very sustainable because it grows so quickly. It grows way faster than trees, so we have a good choice. It's a better choice than using trees. Also, sheep's wool. I bet most of you have not thought of using sheep's wool for building materials for houses, but sheep's wool can be used as an insulator in your houses. So that is a good alternative. Also, straw bales are good for insulating. Precast concrete. Concrete is a natural material that can be recycled, which makes it a good choice for eco-friendly homes like ours. Again, recycled wood, any wood that's already been cut down and used, we should be reusing it if possible. And plant-based polyurethane rigid foam. This can also be used as insulating material. And then we talk about lighting. So for schools that aren't really used at night, you might be able to get away with just using skylights. Just like in this picture, letting the natural light shine in. So that eliminates the need for electricity and to use artificial lights. But when we do need artificial lights, we should use high efficient lighting. So that can be used more in houses where we might need light at night. Again, in office spaces, stores, restaurants that are open during the day, we can use the natural skylight to eliminate the need for artificial lighting. Okay. And that's it. So I hope this answered all your questions about what I recommend for your green city. What is happening?